You saved $1.8 million, but now that your retirement's close, you might be asking yourself, is that really enough to step away at age 57? It feels like it should be, but early retirement brings more than just the absence of income. It brings healthcare gaps, market risk, and years before your Social Security kicks in. So the real question isn't just whether you can retire, but whether you can have the clarity to do it confidently. So today's video is an exciting one because we're going to be doing a live case study. We're going to walk through an example financial plan and answer this exact question. Can a married couple with $1.8 million retire at age 57? We'll break down the actual numbers, test real world scenarios, and explore what it really looks like to stop working early. Let's get right into it. Meet Mark and Linda. They've been married for over 30 years, both in good health, and now they're thinking about stepping away from their demanding careers to spend more time doing what they love, which is traveling, hiking, and just enjoying life, as they said. At a high level, they really want to spend $100,000 per year on their basic living expenses, their travel expenses, and their healthcare costs. And they would like to support their niece, Kylie, with her college expenses in a few years. Now, it's also important for them to leave an inheritance to their nieces and nephews as well once they pass. And you'll see that we have this as a $1 placeholder for discussion once we get their base plan finalized. Now, this is really important, and I want to touch on this for a second as to why we break out Mark and Linda's goals the way that we do. You can see here that we break it out under their needs, which we have the $75,000 in their basic living expenses and about $26,000 for their healthcare expenses pre-Medicare. Then we have their travel budget and their gifting to their niece Kylie under their wants. And finally, you can see that their inheritance goals is going to be under their wishes. Now, the reason we separate their expenses by needs, wants, and wishes is that it allows us to look at their goals holistically, but then also recognize the areas where maybe we can fine tune a little bit. So if they begin to overspend in areas such as their wants or wishes, they may be able to tighten their belt there, spending temporarily due to previous overspending or market drawdown, as I mentioned. There's another critical area of goal planning, and that's planning for healthcare pre-Medicare age. As you can see here, we have their healthcare broken out separately from Mark and Linda's other basic living expenses. Healthcare costs are separated from general retirement spending for two crucial reasons. Now, the first is that we need to run healthcare inflation at more than double the rate of their regular expenses, since these expenses can grow faster and quickly eat into your plan if they're not tracked on its own. And second, if you're retiring before Medicare kicks in, those pre-Medicare premiums and out-of-pocket costs can be more than twice what you're going to pay after age 65 on Medicare. It's one of the biggest financial swings in retirement and one that catches a lot of early retirees off guard. So we want to make sure that it's accounted for properly. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to Mark and Linda's balance sheet. And before we do that, I recognize that your name might not be Mark and Linda, and you may have more or less than $1.8 million. But if you want to retire early and a lot of the thoughts, concerns, and ideals that Mark and Linda have resonate with you, then you might find value in my retirement readiness review. It's a personalized video where I'll break down your specific retirement outlook and highlight potential blind spots that can be especially important for those who want to retire before age 65. I'll put a link in the description if you want to learn more about it. But okay, let's get back to Mark and Linda. Now, the first thing we're going to do is look at their guaranteed income sources in retirement. Mark is projected to have about $48,000 per year in retirement at his full retirement age for Social Security, which is in 2035. And then Linda will have about $38,000 in 2035 as well. Then we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at their assets. So as you can see here, we have $1.8 million between all of their different retirement accounts. Of that, $50,000 is in their checking and savings. They have a joint account of about $100,000. Linda has a 403B account with the value of about $350,000. She also has a Roth IRA that she's recently started funding via a backdoor Roth conversion, and that value is $50,000. Now, Mark's current 401k is about $1.2 million, and that's his only 401k out there because he's consolidated his previous employer 401k account, which is great. And then he also has $50,000 in his Roth IRA because just like Linda, he's been funding that along the same time. Now we'll move on to their other assets. As you can see here, very simple, very basic. They have a home that's worth about $500,000, and they own that free and clear, which is great. And this is really important over here. Under the future value, you can see how it's assigned. You can see that we actually have this asset coming back into their plan at their second passing. And you can see that the value of the home at that point is expected to be about $1.4 million. Now that's after a 3% inflation rate year over year, and we're anticipating 5% sales tax at the end of their plan as well for that asset. And as you can see, we don't actually have the home asset being used to fund any of their goals. It's really just being left to their estate. And so this is really more so for their net worth purposes. Now, if Mark and Linda had a larger net worth to the point of maybe we're looking at potential estate tax issue, then that's going to be very important to plan for and to keep top of mind for us. And as you can see, they also have 2 cars, and we're reflecting that on the balance sheet as well. So as I mentioned, Mark and Linda have been fantastic at reducing and eliminating debt. All they currently have is just a car loan for $40,000 that they're planning on paying off the next few years. And so combining their assets, subtracting out their car loan liability, Mark and Linda's net worth is about $2.3 million. So at the age of 57, they clearly have done the hard work. And when we talked to them, they said that in their 30s and 40s, they really were doubling down on aggressively saving into their 401ks and trying to make compound interest work for them rather than against them. So now we're going to go ahead and take a look at their current scenario. What this is going to do is run 1,000 simulations based on different market returns and tell us if Mark and Linda had never met with us or a financial advisor and they wanted to retire this year based on everything that they've done, are they able to do that? And our software is going to show us what's called a probability of success score. But really, it's the probability of not needing to make an adjustment based on everything that we put into the plan and the assumptions that we made. And so as you can see here, there's a lot of green on the screen, which is great. But we also do some red. And so a Monte Carlo simulation that ran 1,000 trials based on different market assumptions, like I said, of those 1,000 trials, 580 were successful, which is great. That means that Mark and Linda were able to go through their 25 to 30-year retirement without needing to reduce spending, change their portfolio, or anything like that once. So that equates to a 57% probability of really not needing to make an adjustment during their retirement. Now, financial planning isn't like school, where a 90% to 100% is an A, and anything under that feels like a problem. In financial planning, a 70% to 90% confidence level is really our sweet spot. Anything above 90%, well, that often means you might be too conservative with your plan, and you might have room to enjoy more. And if you're in the purple zone, which means you're overspending, or in the blue zone, which means you're underspending, it's really just a sign that we're gonna need to fine tune the plan a little bit and potentially look at pulling some different levers. Now, the goal isn't perfection, it's balance. You wanna be secure enough to be able to sleep at night, but free enough that you can really enjoy the ride during retirement. So 57% tells me as a financial planner that we are going to need to make a few adjustments. And that's where this process is really helpful for both this client and for the plan. So let's go over to our what if worksheet where we can test different variables in Mark and Linda's plan to figure out a scenario that they and ourselves are comfortable with. So I'll help orient you to this screen. We're going to have several what if scenarios and they're going to be vertically aligned. So you can see the first one is just the current scenario, and that's what we just walked through. And you can see to the right of that, we have our first what if scenario, which is going to be if Mark and Linda retire at age 57 like they had planned, but they're willing to reduce their spending by $10,000 annually, or just $833 per month. So from $100,000 to $90,000 net income. Now that simple adjustment increases their plan score significantly from 57% to 83%, placing them comfortably in that confidence zone that we talked about. Now, what if Mark and Linda say, you know what, 100,000 is already our minimum spending that we're comfortable with, and we're going to have to explore other options. So let's look at 2 variables that we know can't change within their plan. And that's going to be 1, retiring later than 57, and 2, which we just learned is going to be spending less than $100,000 annually. So what we're going to need to consider is their Social Security strategy. Initially, Mark and Linda wanted to file at age 62 to start getting that check, that monthly income from Social Security that they've paid into for so long. But doing that comes with 2 main implications. The first is that it's going to permanently reduce their monthly benefit up to 30%, and that's for life of their benefits. And then the second implication is going to be the loss of tax planning opportunities like Roth conversions or capital gains harvesting. Now, if they are willing to wait until age 70 to file for Social Security, however, that one adjustment significantly boosts their plan. As you can see here, filing at the age of 70 increases their probability of success from 57% to 65%, thanks to the higher monthly benefit and just improved longer-term cash flow. Now, of course, if Mark and Linda were to pass earlier, this score would not look as good, but with financial planning, we want to be conservative and we want to plan for a long, healthy, and enjoyable retirement. So we're planning for Mark and Linda to live into their early to mid 90s for this plan. Next, we can also consider fine-tuning their investment portfolio. You see, one of our core principles at Confluence is utilizing objective-based portfolio management. We really aren't aiming to beat an arbitrary benchmark like the S&P 500. Rather, we want to align the portfolio to support your retirement goals, hence goals-based planning. Currently, their allocation is 60% equities and 40% fixed income. If they are open to adjusting their allocation to something closer to maybe like a 70-30, this further increases their plan success score. So you can see on the far right, combining their delayed Social Security strategy and adjusting their portfolio gives them a 67% probability of success, up 10% from their current score, and nudging them closer to that confidence zone that we talked about at 70%. I wanted to run these different scenarios just to illustrate to you how several small levers can dramatically improve a retirement plan. So let's take a step back and recognize the beauty of financial planning. It's detailed and it's personal. Maybe when we go back to Mark and Linda, they decide, hey, you know what? We are willing to work an extra year. Or maybe they're okay with reducing their spending by 5,000 annually and not 10,000. Or maybe they say, you know what, we will delay Social Security, but we want to take it by 68. We can't wait an extra 2 years till 70. These are the kind of decisions that we explore together, but ultimately Mark and Linda need to feel comfortable with. So at the end of the day, spending $100,000 annually and retiring at age 57 with $1.8 million is entirely possible for Mark and Linda, as long as they're willing to be flexible with their Social Security timing, make some spending adjustments based on market performance, and look at potentially portfolio rebalancing. Additionally, the benefit of working with a financial planner is having regular check-ins, whether it's annually or semi-annually, to make sure that nothing falls off track. Like I said, retirement planning isn't about avoiding all risk. It's about staying proactive and being ready to adapt if need be. And there you have it. We walked through what retiring at age 57 with $1.8 million really looks like for Mark and Linda. If you or your spouse are sitting on similar savings, wondering if it's enough for you, I hope this gave you a clear window into what's possible. And just as importantly, what needs careful planning. But remember, clarity in a video like this is really just the first step. Mark and Linda's scenario gave us a solid blueprint, but no two couples are the same. Your savings, healthcare situation, your income needs, and your timing will shape a completely different path than Mark and Linda, which is why it's not just enough to compare your numbers to theirs. You really need your own retirement map, one that's going to show you exactly when you can retire and how long your money's going to last. So if you're ready to stop guessing and start planning, click the link in the description below to get your complimentary retirement readiness review. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.